Well, good morning, everyone. It's Monday, March 6th. It's 9 o'clock. It's time to start our Monday commission meeting. If you'd all please rise and join me as we salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Army. And as we always do it before one of our meetings, we're going to have a moment of silence. I'd like you to think about all the good things in life and how lucky we are to be here in Florida and in Flagler County. And I'd like to honor our first responders, our police, our fire, the medical personnel. Their tireless efforts and dedication keep us safe. So let's think a little bit about them. And last but not least, our men and women in the armed forces of the United States. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We've got a couple additions to the agenda today. The first one is we need to add the A1A strike team presentation. Commissioners, if I could get a motion to add that as item 4D.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to add the A1A strike team presentation as item 4D. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Additionally, we have an item in the consent agenda, and I'd like to add this as item 7E. It's a request to declare items as surplus and removal from the county fixed assets. So I'll entertain a motion to add item 7E.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to add item 7E regarding removal of surplus items to the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to add declaration of items as surplus and removed from the county fixed assets as item 7E. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. We've got some announcements today. We have two elections coming up you may not be aware of. Flagler Beach on March 7th and the town of Beverly Beach on March 7th. They have their municipal elections. We have a vacancy in one of our boards, the Library Board of Trustees. We needed someone to fill that. If you have an interest, for further information, you can apply via the Advisory Board vacancies page on our floridacounty.gov website. We've got a couple meetings coming up. We've got a workshop today at 1 o'clock, and our next regular meeting is on March 20th at 5 o'clock. Next is community outreach. This 30-minute time period has been allocated for public comment on any consent agenda item or topic not on the agenda. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the commission. Speakers should approach the podium, identify themselves,
Excuse
and
me,
direct
sir.
comments
Chair?
to the chair.
Clerk, the clerk. Community outreach, do we need to go back to
There's
Section
some
4.
proclamation.
the proclamations?
Oh,
Sir,
thank you.
okay, yes.
Thank you, Clerk. I skipped over the proclamations. And I've asked,
Got it.
you got it.
It's a Monday morning. So I'm going to read a proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners proclaiming March 20th through 24th of 2023 as Government Finance Professional Week in Flagler County. Whereas the Florida Government Finance Officers Association is a professional association founded in 1937 and serves more than 3,300 professionals from state, county, and city governments, school districts, colleges and universities, special districts, and private firms. And whereas FGFOA is dedicated to being your professional resource by providing opportunities through education, networking, leadership, and information. And whereas this Government Finance Professionals Week, sponsored by FGFOA and all its member governmental organizations, is a week-long series of activities aimed at recognizing government finance professionals and the vital services that they provide to our state and our community. And whereas during this week, government finance professionals throughout the state of Florida will be acknowledged for their hard work, dedication, and leadership. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners that March 20th through 24th, 2023 be declared as Government Finance Professionals Week in the County of Flagler, and we urge all citizens to join us in extending appreciation to all government finance professionals for their continued leadership, hard work, commitment to the highest ethical standards, and dedication to their profession, our organization, and our citizens. Adopted this 6th day of March 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Pennington. John?
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, John Brower, Financial Services. This is the fourth year in a row the board has recognized many financial professionals in government throughout the county, working hard every day to build the trust instilled on them as stewards of our taxpayers' money. On their behalf, I'd like to thank you and the board for today's proclamation. Like so many others within support operations, finance professionals work diligently behind the scenes to aid in the success of the many programs and initiatives in place to implement the board's policies. In your financial services department alone, there are CGFOs, MBAs, MPAs, and a continuous drive to improve on the work that has consistently won awards from peer groups and national organizations. With a sense of pride, they conduct our financial business each day, from creating, implementing, and monitoring their respective budgets, to requesting and processing payments for the hundreds of vendors doing business with the county, to ensuring our payroll is properly processed each week. These are but a few items on the exhausting list of the critical fiscal work performed by these specialists. Each of them carries a tremendous sense of responsibility, not only for the work they do, but also how that work affects all levels of our organization and each of our citizens. They understand the extent to which they are counted on and the importance of them performing with honor and integrity. These experts apply their knowledge in the background, out of the spotlight, ensuring the application of sound fiscal practices and policies, all to do their part in earning the trust of our community. This is why your public recognition of these hardworking professionals is so appreciated. Thank you again for acknowledging them and the work they do for all of us.
Thank you, John.
Yep. Can we get a picture?
Yes. Come on up here and get the proclamation. What they do is so important to the success of this county government and this county existence. I've always said that the most important thing we do is manage the taxpayer dollars, and they make sure we do it correctly. That's really.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve that proclamation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proclamation for Government Financial Professionals Week. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. Next, we have a presentation.
Thank you all. Before you leave, appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Next is a presentation by the Florida Department of Transportation 5-year work program. This was requested by Faith Akatib, our engineer. Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Chair, Board, and public. Just a quick question. Do I run the presentation from here, or is it done on, do I need to inform to move the slide? Keep going. Oop. There. Okay.
If it doesn't come up, I have you could put it on the view graph.
We got it, it's up.
Got it? Okay.
We are up
All right,
and
there it
running.
is.
All right, again, good morning. Kathy Alexander Corbin with the FDOT District 5, and thank you for the opportunity to come today to talk about a tentative 5-year work program. So what is the work program? It's our 5-year plan, upcoming 5 years of projects that we have in transit, transportation, seaport, airport, and trail. And it includes the activities of engineering and design, planning studies, transportation planning, and transportation systems management, as well as right-of-way and construction and maintenance activities. We developed the tentative 5-year in coordination with our local partners as well as regional stakeholders based on the priorities for the area. And each district develops their own tentative 5-year work program, and then it is all compiled to develop the state tentative 5-year work program. Ultimately, the statewide tentative 5-year work program is submitted to the governor and is reviewed by legislature, and it becomes adopted July 1st of each year. We manage the 5-year work program on a fiscal year basis, and we have 5 years. We're talking about fiscal years 24 through 28. And the first year in this tentative work program is fiscal year 24, which begins July 1st of 23 and runs until June 30th of 24, and then consecutively on until fiscal year 25. Over the last few years, FDOT has done a great job of putting a lot of information on the tentative work program out on this website that you see here on the left-hand side. The work program public hearing, you can actually go there for a central location and look at all of the district's tentative 5-year work program, as well as watch some videos how we develop the tentative as well. Some key dates for the tentative work program, we did have a public hearing, a public open house, as well as an online presence sharing information on District 5's work program that occurred in December. Today, the Florida Transportation Commission is holding the public hearing. Our secretary is actually presenting on that today. We submit, central office submits actually, I say collectively, but central office submits the statewide final tentative work program to the Executive Office of the Governor on the 21st, and that'll be reviewed by legislature through the session March 7th through May 5th. Ultimately, once it's been reviewed and approved, again, it does become adopted July 1st of this year. Fiscal year 22 is interesting in more ways than one. For us, significantly, when it came to project costs, we saw an overall 24% increase on project costs for our lettings, material costs, supply chain issues, inflation. That really was a challenge over the last 12 months and continues to be as we're stepping into the new year. We saw material and labor shortages as well as premium pricing on certain materials, specifically electrical, steel, and concrete. And it also augmented project unknowns on our projects. What we were seeing is some of our contractors were actually including unknowns because they were getting short stand bid or pricing on some of the material for projects, and that was actually increasing our project costs as well. We saw limited competition in turnout of bid results. Sometimes we only saw one bid at a really high price, which kind of forced us to go back, pull that bid, and see how can we put it back out to increase competition. Sometimes we had to modify the scope, sometimes we had to combine that with other projects so that we can get more response from our contractors. All of this really pertained to dynamic cost estimation as well as for our projections of what we were seeing. Prices were up and down from month to month on different pay items, so it was really hard to kind of project and come up with our forecasting of what prices may be. That short-term occurrence actually has to play out in the long-term estimation as we're stepping into the tentative work program, so we had to balance that, and that was a challenge for us over the last year. On top of material and construction costs, we also saw right-of-way increases. Overall, about 15% of real estate prices went up in the last year as well. And when you take material and supply chain issues for transportation projects, that also plays into material costs for real estate as well. So we had increases in the right-of-way impacts as well. All right. We build the tentative work program against what we receive as allocations of revenue projections, both for federal and state. And so at the end of the day, when we put the plan together, we need to meet program area requirements as well as certain areas of maintenance and safety, as well as other significant maintenance, asset maintenance, like our resurfacings and our bridges. And all of this has to be balanced against available resources. We really had good news in terms of revenue forecasting. They actually came out better than what was anticipated for this last year. However, those first couple of years were flatlined a little bit just because of the inflation that we've seen over the last 12 months. Not that they were overshooting what those revenue projections would be, but really realistically, what they projected and what they ended up, they were trying to be a little bit more conservative on that. So that impacted our work program. We also had changes in our resurfacing program. Our lane mile, which is what we do to repair our pavement, increased over the last few years in our tentative work program. And those additional lane miles got redistributed for the program, and that impacted all the districts as well. So that means there was less funding for other areas as we were trying to maintain our pavement. Luckily, in 2021, we had the bipartisan infrastructure law, also the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which injected a little bit more money into our work program. There was funds that were received in terms of supplements to our allocations and our formula funding. So you can see there we received statewide $3.5 billion additional, 35% increase. And then we also had some new formulas that came into play for public safety. We had resiliency, also known as protect funding. We had carbon reduction funding that was injected, as well as bridge repair and rehab funding, and electric vehicle funding that we could use and leverage that against some of our projects. When we balance the work program, we really try to keep in mind what we have already planned for the 5 years. So we really take into account the project commitments and cost increases. Those are the priorities that we have when we're building the plan. We also want to leverage fund sources as much as we can across the different projects. We have to assess the district needs as well as our partner regional needs. And so we were very limited in new projects. Really, we were only focused on safety and maintenance and preservation. Just because of the significant cost increases, we didn't have as much to go around for new projects, so we really could only target those type of projects in the upcoming tentative. So ultimately, what we try to do is minimize or avoid any kind of deferrals or deletions in the tentative work program to the extent possible.
Do you have a standard per mile paving or resurfacing, what it should cost?
They do have a breakdown per mile, and we can definitely get that. There's different contexts. They have rural and urban. Costs are significantly different between the two. But if you go to the FDOT website under estimating, they actually do have a 1 mile representation of what the
Okay.
general cost would
All
be.
right, I'll do that. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so here you see the 5-year work program funding, and this is for Flagler County within and outside of the TPO. Here's a breakdown per year. As you can see, the total is about $104.5 million for the region. In terms of a breakdown for type of projects, you can see for safety, we have about $2.5 million estimated for the 5-year for Flagler County outside of the TPO. Capacity, a little over $2 million, and 5-year estimated Flagler within the TPO, $5 million, so a little bit over $7.1 million total for the 5 years. Preservation, and this is where I was talking about the resurfacing, you really see that pike up in the next few years because we have a lot more miles that we're taking care of. So preservation here is about 73.5, a little over that in the upcoming 5 years. Multimodal, this will be your transit type, bus, transit, any type of those projects, and it's about a little bit over $9 million for the 5 years. Operations, that one is a 0 across the board. We do have bike ped projects estimated for Flagler within the TPO, a little bit over $4 million in the upcoming 5 years. And miscellaneous, this could be anything like rest area, lighting, anything else, drainage, any kind of emergency repairs. And here we have close to $9 million in the upcoming 5 years. So overall, we have 6 TPO priority projects represented, totaling over $6 million. And we have 4 county priority projects represented, a little bit over $9 million. All right, these projects that I'm going to go over now aren't necessarily key major projects. They're really projects that were introduced into the tentative. These are new projects that just entered our 5-year plan. Here we have 2 pavement projects. We have Armand Beach Drive and other various roadways. That's a resurfacing project. The construction for that is funded in fiscal year 28, which is our last year of the tentative, with a little bit over $500,000 program there. And then on the right-hand side, we have East Daytona North paving Phase 1. This is a county priority. Both of these are actually, I'd say the first one was 4, this one is 5. And the construction is also funded in the last year, fiscal year 28, with a little bit over $4 million for that construction. Here we have Bulo Creek Headwaters Regional Park. This is a bike path trail type project. This is the county alternative, transportation alternative priority number 1. We have designed funded that in fiscal year '24, which is our first year. And that's a little bit over $1.5 million program there. And then on the right-hand side, we have a TPO priority 21. This is Old Kings Road South multi-use trail. A bike path project's design is funded in '25, which is the second year of the tentative, and construction is funded in '27, fourth year. Close to $3 million there. And that concludes my presentation, so I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Kathy. David?
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to see what we're doing, and obviously, we'd like to things happen as soon as possible, but makes sense to me, what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's good to be in the plan.
Yep.
Yeah. Andy, you have anything?
I guess one question would be on capacity issues. I know in 100, we're looking at a safety project coming up soon on with some additional pedestrian improvements, but safety for 100. When, is there any other capacity issues within the county, failing roadways with that are in DOT's jurisdiction that would be of concern?
I'm sure there are. I don't know off the top of my head. I would have to go back and get with our project development team and see what is going on in Flagler County. I know we have several big projects. A lot of the improvements in the projects are being taken care of in our resurfacing jobs. And so there's a lot of coordination and collaboration that's happening during the scope process with the local agencies to try to address those items. So I can look and see what may be coming up. They're currently working on those. We program resurfacing every year. And so we look out 2 years construction, design is the upcoming year. So at this time, they would be scoping a lot of those resurfacing jobs. So I would be able to get a list of what those would be. In terms of capacity, I would have to go back to our design and project development team to find out which projects are coming up. Although, if you don't mind, I could ask my colleagues and see if they have any idea of any additional projects for Flagler.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman? Yeah, and more in your area, but over on A1A, aren't they doing some safety crosswalks coming up?
Well, we've asked for that over in A1A.
Yes,
You know,
A1A
across from
is-
Bing's Landing and that bait shop. We've asked for a safety study there.
Correct. Now, these are safety projects, so in terms of capacity specifically, I would have to go back. Capacity, I'm assuming you're talking about increased lanes to be able to absorb more traffic.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of safety projects that are in the area, A1A being one of them, State Road 100 is
Right.
the other one, and there's a few others that we have. But we can get you a list of any capacity ones.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Kathy, can you talk to speed limits? I know that's not your your area. So it's okay, just say no and no.
No,
I won't
definitely
ask.
not my forte, and I don't know if I want to comment on that. Our design group and our design engineer are probably best for that.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
Leanne, do you have
I'll
anything?
probably reach out individually. I have some questions on the 305 project, and namely about, red light opportunity
Okay.
at 305 and 302. We've been having some issues there, so.
Okay, yeah,
Want
absolutely.
to learn more about the 305.
No problem. Feel free to reach. The contact information was there. Let me know, and I can definitely get you with our
I'll
traffic
yeah,
ops.
I'll email you.
Thanks.
Mr. O'Brien, do you have anything? No? Kathy, thank you so much. We
All right.
appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Very much.
Thank you. Next, we have 4D, which was an added presentation, the A1A Strike Team presentation by Jack Atkins. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to come and kind of give you a recap of where we are on the strike team and kind of where we are moving forward.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm sorry. Jack Atkins, I'm with District 5, and I'm the Director of Transportation Development.
Thank you.
I got going on my spiel too quickly there. Thank you. We just kind of want to give you all an overview of where we are and what's going on. As most of you know, we were hit with 2 hurricanes in November that took a bit of a toll on A1A over in Flagler Beach. And so in November, we started kicking around the idea of forming the strike team. And then in December, I believe we started meeting. We've been meeting for the last 3 months. We've engaged coastal engineers. We have a team that is made up of FDOT, Flagler County, Volusia County, Flagler Beach, Army Corps of Engineers and DEP that have been trying to look at this problem and what we could do. So we asked the engineers to look at a 13-mile corridor and, you know, look at vulnerable areas, look at failing areas, look at, you know, where, if another storm hit, would we be most likely to lose some of the infrastructure. And we asked them for a lot of solutions out there. And I think they considered everything except for moving A1A, because in 2017, that hit like a lead balloon when that was out there. So we do recognize the economic viability, the tourism, and everything that A1A brings to us. And, you know, certainly I'm a native Floridian, grew up in Brevard County, and I don't think there's another stretch of A1A in the state that is quite as beautiful as that stretch. And so we want to do everything we can to preserve that. So we have some recommendations, and Ty Garner, who is our project manager for this project for the department, will be going over those. But we've considered a lot of things, and we have some public meetings that are coming forward. We've engaged not only the folks on the strike team, but we looked at the business partners, we looked at the community. We tried to get input through those, through listening sessions. I believe we had folks at the Friday night event at Flagler Beach, just trying to get the message out and get as much input from folks as we could. And so moving forward, we have a public meeting. It'll be a loop presentation scheduled for Volusia County Wednesday night, which is March 8th. And then we have one in Flagler County that'll be at the Wickline Center over in Flagler Beach on March 21st to engage once again. But Ty, it will go over where we are and where we are moving forward.
Thank you, Jack. Good morning. Ty Garner, Florida Department of Transportation Project Manager for the A1A projects. Do I hit the up button? One's the right. Okay, thank you. So as Jack said, the strike team did focus on a 13-mile stretch beginning in Volusia County and Ormond by the Sea, right near, Sunrise? I'm sorry, Roberta Road. And then continuing north up to Osprey Drive in Flagler Beach, right near the end of Flagler Beach city limits. The strike team focused on, as Jack pointed out, the vulnerability of A1A and what can we do to help eliminate these future problems. We have a slide coming up where we can show where we've been out here multiple times looking at, or actually fixing A1A after major events. So again, the strike team was focused on some resiliency plans that we can do. We've engaged the community. Back in January, we had public information meetings and listening sessions, one in Volusia County and one in Flagler. Volusia County was over 100 people. Flagler County was over 200 people. As a result, we had over 100 written comments that we got via the comment forums or email or phone calls or other methods. So we have since responded to every one of those comments. What we heard from the listening sessions is the Army Corps project that's going into Flagler Beach is very important to the community, and we need to preserve that project. We also need to find permanent solutions to A1A so we do not continue to lose the road. We need to maintain the natural beauty of the corridor and project and beaches and its tourism that it brings. Whatever we do needs to include sand and vegetation to preserve the natural look of the beach that we have out there or had out there prior to all the storms. And I'm sorry, let me go back real quick. One other comment we heard that we're working with locals, Flagler Beach, Volusia County, and Flagler County is more walkovers for pedestrian crossings and safety. One thing, this presentation, we don't have a slide on it here, we'll touch on it more when we go to the public again, is we're also looking at the safety of the A1A and the crossings. We're looking at where would be the best place to put in additional pedestrian crossings. Probably the flashing beacons that you see with the crosswalks. Don't know how many more, but we're looking for the best locations for some of those. I think like a Gamble Rogers Park would be an ideal location for one. So we're trying to figure out where the best places for that kind of improvement would be and then how to do it. How to do it seems to be part of the challenge we're coming up next with. So a couple things. We did touch on the U.S. Army Corps project. That's the Dune project in Flagler Beach. Again, our strike team recommendation is to allow that and just let that go through as it's planned. That comes with a 50-year warranty, if you will, right? If there's another major event, Army Corps will come in there and replace and replenish and renourish. And every 7 to 10 years, as necessary, they'll come in and also replace and replenish the beach sand. Right now, I believe that estimate is right around 35 to 45 million. They're updating it now, as most of y'all are aware. I think they're probably a month away or so of having a new estimate. They've got to do a new survey out there. The next, I'm sorry, go back. I'm sorry. So a couple things that we came up with is our recommendations is to do more seawalls. We do have one seawall that we built in 2018 on the north end of Flagler Beach, which is shown in the picture, in the small picture on the bottom of the screen there. One of the recommendations come out is let's do some more of that. So the first place we're going to do it is in Volusia County from Sunrise Avenue north up to right near Martin Drive. It's about 1.25 miles for that section of wall. Our early estimates that we're getting in on that one, actually, let me go through both wall sections and then I can give you our early estimates on that one. So that one covers about 1.28 miles in Volusia County. The second wall section is at the Volusia County, Flagler County line. It's also about 2.2 miles or 2.28 miles of secant wall. Right now, we're recommending a secant wall, which was built here in Flagler County. We know from the early engineering and the geotechnical information that we have that a secant wall will work and it's constructible. But one thing we're also going to do is continue to look for other wall types that will work, once we get the geotechnical information back, we'll know what we can actually do out there. Our early estimates for those two walls, which is about 2.5 miles of walls, right around $100 million. Those walls, it's just not a wall. It'll be covered with sand and plantings, just like was done up north end. So that's our listening sessions made it loud and clear that they want us to take a look at and make sure that we preserve the sand and the plantings. So that's part of the wall cost that we have right now is that. The last section is the non-federal dune projects in Flagler County, shown on the screen. I know the county's been working for a long time with the Army Corps on those projects. Our recommendation is, though, those sections are vulnerable. They're not as vulnerable where the wall sections are, so we believe that going forward with that non-federal dune project is the best option right now to protect the beach and ultimately protect A1A and the businesses. So as Jack brought up, we did form the team in November. We had the listening sessions in January. We're drafting up the initial plans and recommendations right now. We are going forward with 2 more public meetings. The Ormond Beach one will be at the Casements on the 8th. And then the March 21st will be at the Wickline Center here in Flagler Beach. Once that's done, we'll move forward if we're seeking funding. All the funding that Kathy just talked about, this is completely separate and independent of that, so Jack and the secretary need to try to go find $100 million. Easy, right? And then we'll go into design and construction. We're looking for some alternative methods of letting the project so we can do it fast-paced. So we need to start the design, we need to look at the right-of-way, if any, and the needs for that, and then look for a construction or a contractor to do the work. We're still developing our plans on that. So that's the end of this slide. We do have a presentation that we will putting up on our CFL Road site right before the public meetings. It's much longer, it's much broader, but we wanted to shorten it down for our presentation today. But so with that, do y'all have any questions?
I think what's interesting to point out, excuse me, is that the secant seawall that you have worked.
Sure.
It worked.
It did work.
It protected A1A. And I
It
thought that was
did.
amazing.
And on that note, our maintenance office is working with FHWA, or Federal Highway Administration, for right around $1.5 million to replenish all the sand and the plantings and the sand fencing along that wall section. So that's in the near future. That's coming.
All right. Commissioners, any questions?
I know when, in the presentations and when we chatted one-on-one, appreciate I think it's an important step to not just have the wall, but the vegetative dunes seaward as well. And I know DOT is an engineering company built, and the seawall and protecting A1A is important. I feel that these dunes protect that infrastructure. So I think moving forward, one of the questions you weren't able to answer at the time was about ongoing maintenance of those dunes or replantings as needed to protect the seawall. So that would be just a concern that I have, is that there be a plan addressing that as well.
Absolutely. We're looking at that, Commissioner, and, we're going to have to work with Flagler Beach. We're going to have to work with Flagler County to look at financing and funding and where that all comes from. But, going in, our cost estimates provide for the wall, for the initial sand, for plantings, hopefully some sand fencing to kind of hold that stuff and gather the sand. But then moving forward, everyone recognizes that we have to have some sort of renourishment. So we're trying to get a plan in place to how to address that with all the partners.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just on scheduling, I think we have an idea on the Army program, how that's going and when that's going to be scheduled. What about the rest of your part of the project? I know we're putting sand on the northern 12 miles of the beach right now, but for the rest of it, is there any kind of thought on schedule?
We don't have a definite timeline right now. Obviously, we're trying to get it in as soon as possible. Secretary Tyler has been in Tallahassee last week. He's up there again today, talking to the Florida Transportation Commission, but also he's having meetings with individual legislators from both Volusia, Flagler, our partners up there, to try to make sure they understand, and I believe all of our legislators do understand the importance of getting this funding in place. So he's trying to work with that, and right now there's no definitive, but we're all very hopeful that it will be sooner rather than later, and it has to be.
Were you able to get your permits through FDEP? Has that happened yet?
No, we haven't started yet. We need to
Okay.
make sure we have a plan going forward. And then, excuse me, we'll probably start in about a month working on the DEP permit and any other permitting agencies that we need to go through, the Fish and Wildlife and others. But yes, we're getting ready to start that.
Thank you.
That might be the long lead item.
I
That
was-
might be
I was
the
gonna
ti-
say.
In all likelihood, that's going to be the long lead item on the whole project.
Yeah, I think, just my personal opinion is that they've been reluctant in the past to get on board with seawalls, but I think after this last storm, the seawalls that we have in Flagler County worked, all of them, they worked.
They did.
They
and
protected the houses.
I
and
can't
they-
speak for them, but I think they agree with that.
I think they do agree with that, yeah. Well, anyway, anything we can do to help, you know that.
Appreciate that very much.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Now it's time for community outreach. This 30-minute time period has been allocated for public comment on any consent agenda item or topic not on the agenda. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the commission. Speakers should approach the podium, identify themselves, and direct comments to the chair. Public comment is now open. Morning.
How you doing? I'm Charles Cowart with District 4. I'm here this morning in regards to the consideration of the demolition of the Bull Creek Fish Camp. I represent my father, Chuck Cowart, and a number of other voices of businessmen and farmers and ranchers that come there and basically, engage in commerce and affairs that, that they wouldn't do elsewhere. They go there because it's a place of refuge, and it's just a place where we can get away and have a little country meal and sit and talk business. And there's a lot of other people that are affiliated with that too, obviously with tourism, and then never mind the fishing industry and what it supports. And I understand the idea of progress and whatnot, and all of the things that are expanding and encroaching on that, and the nature of it. And I don't know exactly what's tied in and who all's looking at that piece of property as far as what they want to do with it. But there is a lot of people out there that are concerned about it being destroyed, and all of the little details, the particulars, as far as how that's going to take place and what's going to play out in that. But if maybe, I understand there's a meeting tomorrow also to address this particular situation, but I just wanted to take my 3 minutes to, kind of voice my thoughts and kind of represent some people that are on the west side of the county to make sure that that there's a lot of people that are not, necessarily in favor of this, so to speak. But I pretty much that's my thoughts on it right now. And
Well, I'll tell you that we are very concerned about that, and we're going to do our best to do something out there. Even if it's a pavilion and dedicated food truck or something, we're going to do something. That current piece of property where the restaurant's at is really not buildable anymore. We can't build back on that. But I guarantee the 5 of us, are very concerned about that park.
Well, it's my understanding that as far as that building, there was, obviously they're going to demolish it for certain reasons, but like the septic and all that, they're going to demolish it for a certain reason. But I've got concerns about the future of it, and that, like I said, is kind of a hub for. It's been that way for a lot of businessmen and farmers and this and that. They come there and there's a lot of business done that people that are well known around this county that pay a lot of taxes. And I'm just saying, it'd be something to consider. And I'm here just speaking up because I had the opportunity.
Well, you've got a really good commissioner. Commissioner Pennington is
I know
riding,
that.
she's riding this pretty hard, okay?
I know that.
All right, thank you for coming up, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Coward.
Seeing no one else approach the podium, we'll close public comment. Commissioners, do you have any comments on the consent agenda? I'm not asking you to pull any, but just do you have any comments? Mr. Sullivan?
None.
Mr. Dance? Ms. Pennington?
None.
Mr. O'Brien?
No, Mr. Chair.
Then we'll proceed to the consent agenda. Commissioners, any consent agenda item that you would like to pull? Mr. O'Brien?
No, sir.
Ms. Pennington?
No, sir.
Mr. Dance?
No, sir.
Mr. Sullivan?
Nope.
And I have none. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the consent agenda items 7A through 7E.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda items. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. On to paragraph 8, general business. Adam.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Adam Engel, Growth Management Director. This is a request to vacate and relocate a portion of the plat of the Flagler Beach Polo Club subdivision. This particular property, 62 and 66 Trotters Lane, and you can see here on the graphic that's in front of you, this is the aerial that's there that depicts lots 12 and 13. Here's the plat itself, and what's specifically being requested, these 2 lots have been combined together. The owners would like to build across that common lot line, and there's a 5-foot vegetated natural buffer, a restrictive natural buffer that's in between those. And as is the board's policy, we consider these case-by-case basis. This pending request is to take that center 5-foot and 5-foot and shift it out so that you still have a functional equivalency for what's being vacated. So it will be shifted out to the new exterior lot lines. You'll have 10-foot then within the limits of this property for a total of 15 on those new lot lines. So at the north lot line of 12, you'll have a 15-foot wide vegetated natural buffer. South line of lot 13, you'll have a 15-foot wide, 10 feet within the limits of this parcel itself, then 5 feet on the neighbors. We've prepared a resolution that accomplishes this. This is the survey that shows that 5 foot on each side of that common lot line, more specifically, follows the plat. And so you get a little better feel of what's happening here in this graphic. But with that, I'll close, wait any questions or comments. Staff's recommendation is for approval of this.
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
a question. This lot is not in the city of Flagler Beach.
It is not.
I just want to make, it sounded like the way it's stated it is. It's outside, so it's in county, it's in
It is.
unincorporated county land. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve item 8A.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to approve item 8A. Anybody in the public wish to comment on this? Seeing no one come forward, I'll bring it back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. County Administrator, your report, please.
Good morning, thank you. Just a few things to share. I wanted to share with you first, Amy Lukasik has been working very closely with the Northeast Florida Regional Council. As you know, one of their focus areas is ecotourism, so she's been selected to participate on the steering committee for ecotourism and trails. This is a great opportunity, and I know that she's very excited and proud to be representing Flagler County on that project. So just wanted to share that with you. FDOT held a public information meeting regarding work schedule for safety and resurfacing improvements for State Road 11. We had a meeting out at the Hall Creek Community Center where they talked about the resurfacing and some of those improvements, as well as a potential for a roundabout at Cody's Corner. It was well attended. They received some really good feedback about the project. The work is anticipated to begin in the upcoming fiscal year, with actual work starting sometime January, February of 2024, which will be next year. As you know, we've started some beach and dune renourishment projects. Many of you may have seen some photos of dune walkovers in the area of Sea Colony, where some folks maybe had dug out the area. Just wanted to report that we are working with FDEP to ensure that compliance in that area is met. We've also been working with our community partners as well as the chamber to create some economic development strategies to be considered by this board. We are looking to provide you with an overview of those options at our upcoming workshop on March 20th. And last thing that I had was to let you know that our county engineering team had been working closely with FDEP for some protection of homes in the Painters Hill area. I know that you all authorized the chair to sign for approval in showing our support to that project. I did want to let you know that DEP did provide emergency authorization to those homes for the construction of coastal armoring or their seawall project. So I just wanted to share that with you. And that concludes my report.
Heidi, I've been getting several emails on complaints about people walking over the dunes, and also complaining that we have not provided access to the beach because of all the new sand we've put up there. Are we working towards to solve that, solve those? The people on the dune, Faith has said she's going to put some snow fencing up, which I think will help. But
I know that our county engineer and her team is working on that. The first and foremost, I think we needed to get some sand out there, and then I think that they are working on a plan through their contractor. I don't know if Faith is still here. She might have left, but I know we did talk last week about that, and they are working on a plan, so.
yeah, I've explained to the folks out there that getting the sand there was the most important thing. We have to get that out there, and then we'll come back and do what we can for walkovers. And
Correct.
yeah, okay, thank you. Sean?
No report, Chairman.
No report. Okay, we'll turn in, it's our second community outreach. This 30-minute time period has been allocated for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the commission. Speakers should approach the podium, identify themselves, and direct comments to the chair. Public comment is now open. Seeing no one approach, I'll close out public comment. Commissioners, any reports or action items? Mr. Sullivan.
Right. Not much, but important. There was a Northeast Florida Regional Council meeting last Thursday, and at that meeting, we received briefings on a couple of items. Ms. Petito has already mentioned that Ecotourism is an important aspect of what's going to be coming up over the next year, and it's nice to see that Amy will be on the team. At the same time, our leadership group that I'm a part of, and Jonathan and Jorge, we go. This month, we'll be out at Princess Place to bring the whole group in, and resilience and ecotourism and all that will be discussed there. So again, congratulations to Amy, and I think we're well ahead in this county on ecotourism and things that we've got going on, like the trails tying into our new pedestrian bridge are really important. The other item that came up, and I think I like to mention it because a lot of times people don't mention it and don't realize it, the public transportation system in this county is run by the county, the county, and it's basically transportation for disadvantaged. It's an important program. It is coordinated with the Northeast Florida Regional Council. There's a lot of grant money that comes in for that. It's up to, it's a lot of trips. It's thousands of trips each week, taking people who are disadvantaged or old or infirm students, getting them around, getting them to medical appointments, getting them to the hospital and that kind of thing. So it's an important program. It does well. We have a dedicated group here in the county. We're always looking for bus drivers, but the people who use the system love it, and they get to know the drivers and so on and so forth. So as we move into the future, I think it'll be even more important. And as our population increases, we'll have to look at a lot of things, but we could eventually have to do some kind of metro system, but that's a ways off. And I've asked that the city of Palm Coast, that's never kind of gets involved in this, have a rep, one of their elected people, start coming to our meetings. So since the people who use the system, a lot of them are in Palm Coast, and there seems to be, every once in a while, somebody will say something over there, there's no public transportation system in the county. Well, there is. It's the transportation disadvantage, and there are thousands of rides every year that are provided. So I just wanted to make that point. And the Northeast Florida Regional Council, again, is critical in keeping that system going.
Thank you.
That's it.
Mr. Dance.
Sure, thank you. Just a couple things on Mr. Cowart's presentation, his public comment. There was, I think it should be noted, right? We have, at least the direction from last meeting was to have a public meeting, a workshop or something about Bull Creek. So that would be an opportunity. I would let him know when that is formalized, that we let him know about that and publicize that.
I'd have to go back and listen. I don't remember if the direction was to have a public meeting. I know we were going to have a
Workshop.
We were going to
something that-
have a upcoming meeting to talk about our codes. I think there was more of the process of building code. How did we get there? Looking at, the process leading up to red tagging a facility and what that looks like. And we do have that workshop scheduled. It isn't Bull Creek specific necessarily because a lot of our codes need to be updated. I do have a public or a meeting tomorrow. It's actually tomorrow at 2 p.m. here. I think that's the meeting he was referring to. It was set up out of the request of Rhonda Pellisier. I know she's taken to social media and has shared it with at least 30 folks. So it's going to be here tomorrow at 2. I think that's the meeting he was referring to.
I think my interpretation, and we can go back and look at the minutes, but was that just for transparency purposes, using Bull Creek as the example, we would go through the process by which that was determined to not be suitable for future redevelopment, the building's condition, and go through the issues that we faced with that building so that everybody was aware of that process and it was open and people could comment, or at least, in a workshop setting, at least just listen to the issue.
We do. We have that scheduled for March 20th at 1 o'clock is
Okay.
when the workshop will be. It's to discuss two different things. It'll be the economic development as well as the ordinances and that process leading up to it.
Okay, great. And then on the second one regarding the west side is the ongoing master planning for Parks and Rec, and that property is included within our overall public property that falls underneath that review. And there's plenty of online links that the public can go to. But if you look at Palm Coast or Flagler County through social media, they're now taking comments online and requests for areas that need improvement or your suggestions. So there's a ton of comments. I was on there last night reading a bunch of the comments that have been posted. So there's like 4 different areas, if you go follow the links, where the public can comment and request needs. And I would recommend that the West Side take advantage of that and go online and let your voice be heard through that process. As far as the steering committee on ecotourism and trails, I was notified by the regional council that I'll be joining Amy on that committee, on that steering committee, and looking forward to that. And also our review of the alternative transportation list today. Personally, very excited for the opportunities that we have for the Bulow Creek Regional Park and the multi-trail trail system that connects along Bulow Creek, and like Dave said, connects into the trail system where the bridge is, where the pedestrian bridge is. I think that's an incredible opportunity for our residents and for our tourism in general as we continue to expand that. And that's it for comments. Thank you.
Ms. Pennington?
Just to second what Mr. Cowart said, I had a meeting at Hall Creek, which I do a meet and greet out there every Saturday at the community centers with residents, and had quite a few farm families. A lot of the major stakeholders show up out there, and they're concerned because unlike you and I, we can go anywhere and have lunch and discuss business, but that was their place to do such. And they just want to know that the dedication is there by our county, and that we're getting it right before we raise this building, that we're getting it right, and that we're going to do right by them in the future. So that's, he asked, is there any way to talk to y'all? And I said, so we've always got 3 minutes to come in here. So, but that's it.
Mr. O'Brien?
I'm encouraged about our future discussion about economic development incentives and reinvigorating that discussion. It looks like the city, with their new director, is putting an emphasis and an investment in that. So that's encouraging, and that doesn't happen if we don't have the collaboration that we have with the city, which is, of course, led by Heidi and her relationship with Denise at the city and their leadership, and of course, important that Amy and Dolores are also working. They work very closely with the city on a daily basis on economic development kind of things that we don't even know about, because they're not ready to go public or whatnot. So again, I look forward to that discussion. And then also just wanted to let the board know, in case you hadn't seen it or it maybe didn't register, that CareerSource is the workforce development board for our area here, and for many years we've been aligned with Volusia County. And last year there was legislation passed called the REACH Act, which basically empowered a consulting firm plus CareerSource Florida to look at restructuring the workforce development boards around the state of Florida, and they've done that. They've consolidated a number of boards, and we will be realigned and also part of basically, we're going to be a part of Brevard's CareerSource board. So it's going to be Volusia, Flagler, and Brevard County, which is kind of different because, we've been doing a lot of alignment to the north, with Jacksonville, but in this case, that's going to happen. It's done. We don't have, that's not going to not, it is going to happen. And I've been working with the CareerSource leadership since I'm our rep on the board, to work through that. That'll take a little while to do, but haven't met any of the Brevard folks yet, but that will be happening as we move forward. So,
Does Robin King keep her position?
we're not sure about any of that yet. First step is we're going to have to draft an interlocal agreement between the counties. Al is, I believe that Robin's already reached out to Al about, I've asked if he would take the leadership on that with 3 counties because of his expertise and, experience in doing that for hundreds of years, sort of. So I feel good that I think, we're going to have our hand in it that way, and then we'll see how that goes. So.
Thank you. Just a comment for Amy. In your position with the North Region, does our study that we're doing on parks and paths and everything, does that help you? Does that play into what you're going to do? I thought so. Maybe it would just dovetail right into that. Yeah. And just one last comment for my fellow commissioners. Heidi and Alan, I've been working very hard on trying to craft a perpetual easement for Hammock Dunes. And if we can get that done, that will be kind of the model for the rest of the easements going north in our county. But at some point, we're going to have a workshop with all of us and try to work through that. So we'll give it to you in plenty of time in advance to read it. But it's taken a step that we've never taken, and that's a perpetual easement with somebody. So just a heads up, that's coming, and we're close to getting it finalized.
Mr. Chair, is that be modeled after the one that the Army Corps uses?
It's very similar. Some of the wording is the same, but it's not the same. It's better.
But working in conjunction with major property owners being
Yeah,
Hammock Dunes
that's
is-
what we'll do first. If we can get Hammock Dunes done, and then the resort, and then Ocean Hammock, and then Sea Colony, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then it has to work for the individual homeowners
Right.
as well.
Right.
So this is just the first step. If we can get that done, then that opens the door for Al to draft them for other people. So,
Mr. Chairman, just
Yeah.
on that subject.
Yep.
Just for clarity, but we are right now doing easements for the area from South Sixth Street.
For
up
Flagler
To
Beach.
the wall,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
those-
that's
that's
this has
separate.
nothing to do, that's
Yeah,
separate.
and that's pretty much the Army Corps wording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're still in process of doing that.
We're doing that. Yes,
Yeah,
we are.
yeah.
Yes, we are. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.